New champion, no rematch clause, in a world title scene that already feels unstable. Drew McIntyre finally got his moment, but the way he won it might be the thing that haunts his entire reign. And on Friday, four different people are fighting just to get closer to him. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the T Drop Strong Bruce, no soft behavior. I'm Arrow. This is one's wrestling heavy storyline, heavy thing going on as we head to Saturday night's main event and also the Royal Rumble. But there's a clear theme running through all of this long show. So let's get to it. We open with a recap of Drew winning the world title last week thanks to Jacob Fatu. And then Drew comes out on Friday for his first promo as champion in front of fans. Bagpipes, slow, champion like walk, soaking it all in. And honestly, he earned that moment. He's been waiting for that. Drew talks about praying for this, about being the first and still only British WWE champion, and about how nobody believed in him when he held this title before, except him. Then he leans into the camera and he leans into that word he clearly enjoys using now, former champion Cody Rhodes. And he basically states no rematch clause, no shortcuts back. Drew's planning on being champion for a long time. But then Randy Orton interrupts and basically says, I've beaten you before, so don't get comfortable. Then Jacob Fatu hits the scene. Drew bolts through the crowd. And while Orton is distracted, Miz sneaks in with a skull crushing finale, which brings us to our very first match of the night, which is a qualifier for Saturday Night Main Event, in which the four people wrestle to find out who is going to be the number one contender for Drew McIntyre's championship at the Royal Rumble, I'm assuming, which is great. So after commercial, we joined the match that I guess started during the commercial. Miz throwing everything he has at Orton. The brawl outside. Miz hits the skull crushing finale for a near fall. Even tries to steal it with a roll up. But Orton does what Orton does best, an RKO. He breathes. He pins. Say what you want, that RKO that happened in this match is still one of the most dangerous finishers ever. And Orton can still make it matter. Miz, still an elite villain, even if the clock's ticking a bit for him. But anyway, we move backstage. Backstage, Drew tries to leave the arena and runs into Ilya Dragunov. Ilya calmly says he's taken another step towards the title tonight. Drew says he'll beat him too and gets out of there fast. That's confidence, but it felt a little bit forced. We move on to the Women's Tag Team Championship. Charlotte and Alexa Bliss versus Julia and Kiana James. And honestly, Charlotte and Bliss are starting to feel like an actual team in this match. Not just two names thrown together, which helps a bit for this. Bliss hits Sister Abigail to finish it, and they pick up the win. For once, the women's division is starting to feel like it's building real pairing instead of just rotating challengers every week, and that is long overdue for WWE. Post match, Nia Jackson Lash Legends jumps them, and Julia and James steps right up to go against them. This division is quietly stacking bodies that we can use for future matches. We move on to a promo. Solo Sikoa says if the Wyatts wants their lantern back, put the tag titles on the line, and just like that, we got a spooky feud turn into something with actual stakes now, which was long overdue for them. Took them a few months, 2 months. Anyway, Cody Rhodes comes out, takes time to hug a young fan, leaves her in tears, then shifts gears. He admits maybe he got complacent. Maybe Drew finally was just that good. But then he declares for the Royal Rumble. And then he calls out Jacob Fatu. No yelling, no posturing, just intense focus. Cody reminding Fatu what a receipt is. This version of Cody works every time. Hopefully, he can keep it that way. Trick Williams versus Matt Cardona. Physical, fast, competitive, and Trick gets the win with the trick shot. This main roster run is starting exactly how it should. Wins, momentums, no overexposure. He probably isn't winning the 4-way at Saturday Night Main Event, but he belongs there. Post-match, Kit Wilson decks Cardona because chaos apparently follows this guy. But post-break, Kit Wilson is still in the ring and says he is the solution to the problem around here. He's going to solve the toxic masculinity, and Jacob Fatu is behind him. Destruction ensues, and Fatu calls out Cody Rhodes. Cue Rhodes for the brawl, with security and Nick Aldis not quite being able to break it up. We move on to Priest versus Sikoa. Damian Priest versus Solo Sikoa. And this one surprised me. Big shots, big moments. Interference everywhere, though. Wyatt show up. The lantern gets stolen again. But Priest survives it all and hits South of Haven for the win. The match mattered, but the real story from this match is MFT versus the Wyatts. And they're making that feud feeling more important instead of just filler as it's been feeling for those past couple of weeks. Open challenge time. And Leon Slater answers from TNA X Division. This was your weekly Let's Two Insanely Talented People Cook match. Slater looked ready. Hayes stayed sharp. Hayes retained after countering the 450. The open challenge formula is getting a little tired, but Hayes is absolutely finding his groove. And Slater wouldn't shock me wouldn't shock me at all if he's full time here sooner rather than later. We move on to a singles women's match between Chelsea Green and Jordan Grace. Chelsea Green comes out with Alba Fire at her side while Jade Cargill watches from ringside, our women's heavyweight champion, or our women's WWE champion. Once the bell rings, Jordan Grace wastes no time whatsoever. She powers Green down early, hits a delayed vertical suplex, and completely controls the pace. Chelsea tries to steal momentum by sending Grace into the corner, and Alba Fire sneaks in a super kick. But that's about as good as it gets. Grace answers back with a brutal clothesline, a clear suplex, and finish it with a Death Valley driver for the pin. Just 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Almost a squash match. After the match, though, is what's more important. Grace calls out Jade Cargill. Chelsea charges in and accidentally gets laid out, leaving Grace standing tall, and the tension officially set between these women. We move on to the final qualifier for the Fatal 4-Way at Saturday Night's Main Event for the number one contendership. Ilya Dragunov versus Sami Zayn. This was exactly what you expect. Two guys beating the hell out of each other because that's the only way they know how. Dragunov gets busted open in this match, which is crazy. Zayn survives, Helluva Kick, and ends this match. Zayn finally feels like he's moving towards the world title, even if the road is still long. And Dragunov losing here, totally fine. He'll survive. He didn't feel out of place, and that's what mattered most when it came to that match. Post-match, though, Trick Williams jumps Zayn to close the show, and here's the big takeaway. This episode had a clear theme. Everyone is circling Drew, right? The downside, though, at 3 hours, you feel every single minute of this show. The upside, though, 4 matches with real world title implications and storylines actually moving. It's a good show, but 3 hours every week will grind you down fast, no matter how well it gets structured. And that's the T drop. Strong brew, no soft behavior. Who's your pick to challenge Drew at after Saturday Night Main Event? And does Jacob Fatu feel like a real threat or just a wild card? Drop your take, like and sub, and I'll catch you on the next one.